The Wall Street Journal published this story called Bernie's Green Leap Forward. And it says $16 trillion in jail, fracking banned, oil CEOs in jail. And this is from the editorial board. This is from a couple days ago. And I have to admit, when Bernie Sanders said that fossil fuel executives should be imprisoned, that was one of the biggest red flags I have ever seen come from Bernie Sanders. In fact, it was so big, it was a big red flag. It also had a little yellow symbol in the corner of it. Yes, the communist symbol. Now, some people are joking that Bernie's always calling for the gulags. I think it's a bit extreme, but it is kind of weird to be calling for jailing people who have done things legally, albeit not morally, right? Here's the thing. There are a lot of things we as a people think are bad. That doesn't mean we can just go and, arrest somebody and lock them up because at some point we decide it's bad. No. What we do is we change the laws. We then inform them, you can't do this, and then they either choose to follow the law or not. And if they refuse, we have a judicial system to deal with it. Now, I do think it's kind of BS. A lot of companies get away with, yes, overt illegal activities and pay a fine. That's a different conversation. I think it's getting pretty scary when we're seeing what Bernie is proposing among other people. Now, here's the thing. I was a fan of Bernie for a lot of reasons back in 2016. Notably, he seemed genuine when he talked about gun rights, for instance. He said it was urban versus rural. And I was like, right, it's about these, bringing people together so they can share an experience. He seemed to be someone who stood on principle, having been fighting for social, civil rights issues for a long time. And here he was refusing to flip-flop, but then something changed. Something changed. And look, I got to admit, I don't agree with him on most of his policy. It was an issue of, here's a guy who seems like he's trying to bridge that divide and be honest about our problems. And now it seems like we have a guy who's going to espouse establishment talking points and talk about throwing people in jail and spending $16 trillion we don't have. Here's the most important point with this story, though. The reason I want to talk about this is because I'm so damn confused. How do we live in a society where Donald Trump can tweet and send the market into turmoil, and they criticize him for it, but Bernie Sanders can propose a $16 trillion plan and think that won't affect the market and destabilize everything? The point I'm making is, our economy is very delicate. It is a massive and intricate system with a ton of working parts. Humans naturally, through a decentralized process, flow with the marketplace. Competition arises, people develop new technologies, things change over time, the economy evolves. We have a mixed economy, which means the government can come in and make some changes when it needs to. I think that's the right thing to do. We need to let the system evolve and grow, but we also need to make sure we nip the bud of any cancerous tumors growing on our economy, things that would be bad for everybody if left unchecked. I think that's what the government should do, essentially. Let the competition run its thing and, do its course, do its thing. And then eventually it gets to a point where something might be emerging. We all decide together, hey, that's bad, and we better stop it from getting out of control. But what Bernie wants to do is he wants to take the entire delicate system and just start rearranging pieces of it. That, in my opinion, will just cause it to collapse, because an individual, even a committee, can't figure out how all of these parts work together because it's decentralized and uses the computing power of economics and individuals to determine what should go where and when. The point is, Trump tweeting is like someone chucking a pebble into an intricate house of cards and bouncing off of some things and things get erratic. Bernie Sanders wants to chuck a boulder at the house of cards. So I don't understand how they think it's possible that Bernie could enact a $16 trillion green leap forward, as the Wall Street Journal calls it, when we know a tweet can disrupt the market. So let's read this story and see what the Wall Street Journal has to say about Bernie Sanders. But before we do, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address. But of course, the best thing you can do, share this video, because I know people are going to get mad that I'm ragging on Bernie, but you know what? Let's just dive into it. If you like the video, share it. Let's read. They write, Bernie Sanders published his version of the Green New Deal last week, and it's written with all the realism voters have come to expect. You mean lack thereof? Start with its price. An historic $16.3 trillion. That's 10 times the Joe Biden's climate plan, which is wild already. For the record, America's annual economy is about $21 trillion. Mr. Sanders says climate change shares similarities with the crisis faced by President Franklin Roosevelt in the 1940s, when the U.S. within 3 short years was restructured the entire economy. Oh, the good old days of coffee and meat rationing. Maybe that isn't what Mr. Sanders had in mind. But he pledges to declare a national emergency and push through a wholesale transformation of our society. Hold on. Aren't you the people who claimed Trump didn't have the right to declare an emergency to reappropriate defense spending for a wall? Now you want to declare an emergency and restructure the entire economy? This is why I don't believe they're being honest when talking about real solutions. Because it's rules for thee, but not for me. We know Trump can disrupt the economy, but when they do it, it's fine. It's fine. Trump can't declare an emergency, but when we do it, to start, he'd switch electricity and transportation to 100% renewables by 2030. Are you kidding me? How would you just do that? He would ban fracking, which is I believe makes us the largest producer of natural gas, which burns clean, I believe. I could be wrong. Ban drilling offshore and on federal lands. Ban imports and exports of fossil fuels, cancel oil pipelines already being built, and halt permitting of new fossil fuel extraction, transportation, and refining infrastructure. I am a moderate individual, and this is nuts. We do need to transform our energy sector and look for more renewable energies. We do. We don't do it by snapping our fingers and shutting down our economy and giving all of the other nations who hate us a leg up because they won't stop. Bernie seems to think we can just do this, ignoring that other countries exist who don't like us. So it is a challenge. How do we get everyone on board? I don't know if you do. So I don't know what to tell you. Let's read on. Nuclear power would also be phased out. Oh, great. He calls it a false solution, along with geoengineering and carbon capture. And don't worry about rising costs. Quote, we do not expect energy prices to spike, he says, because the federal government is going to weatherize homes, electrify heating, and keep electricity prices stable. What? You can't. That's impossible. Thanks to the public provision of renewables, after 2035, electricity will be virtually free aside from operations and maintenance costs. Well, let me clarify something. Weatherizing homes, that's not going to have any impact on the price of electricity for the most part. It will. So listen, if you're talking about electrifying homes as a stabilization of electrical costs, I think what you're really saying is you will spend the same in energy costs, but the price of that energy will skyrocket and your use will decrease. That is misleading in my opinion, because some things can be made more energy efficient and some things can't. So yes, the cost of energy will wildly fluctuate, and all of this talk, I'd be willing to bet, if Bernie got elected, there would be a massive swing in the markets. Now, I know I'm going to catch flack from a lot of the Bernie Sanders people who are going to be like, Tim, you've turned on Bernie. Yeah, man, come on, this is nuts. The Green New Deal stuff they're pushing out is insane. They talk about, a 4-year college education. Let's read. Workers in the fossil fuel industry would be given a just transition, including 5 years of wage guarantee, a 4-year college education, if they so desire, plus early retirement support for those who choose it. Where is all of this money coming from? Let me explain something. Okay, I do believe government programs are a good thing. I do believe we can do some of these things and they can work. I do believe they need to be set on a time limit and very heavily controlled and restricted so they don't grow out of control. Doing all of these things is like, I imagine it's a little kid going, food should be free. Like, America's so dumb. Like, why spend money on food anyway? That's what it sounds like. It's a little kid. Listen, it's not about money. Money is meaningless. Money is literally meaningless. And I talk to people about this. I see these posts on Facebook from people saying, if the billionaires would just give up their wealth. It's like, dude, the money they hold is access. It doesn't actually guarantee them anything. There's something that, I've known several rich people for a long time, okay? And I'll explain something very important. I was talking to a very wealthy individual, and they were talking about traveling East Coast. They came from New York to DC, and I said, so what'd you do, take a private plane? And they were like, no, I took the train. And I was like, you took the train? For what, like $50? Why? You could fly here. And they said, no, it would take too long, and it's obnoxious. No matter how much money you have, you still live within the confines of society. So yes, you can have a lot of money and not worry about losing your home. Some people own multiple homes, but the issue is it's not the money. There are several individuals, many, who could take every penny they have and give it away, and they're still rich. You know why? Because the paycheck doesn't stop coming simply because they give money away. So think about a CEO. They're like, if only they gave up all their wealth. First of all, that money doesn't guarantee anything if someone isn't willing to do the job, no matter what. There are some jobs people might just never want to do. Money won't get you what you think it will. Some people will. It's not the money. It's the access, it's the value, it's the labor, etc. So they act like simply because a billionaire has the money, that's going to make a difference. What Bernie needs to understand, and what Bernie supporters need to understand, is what Bernie is talking about isn't just the money is there, we can tax people, it'll exist. No, it's whether or not people want to do this. Let me make that clear. You can claim, we're going to train all the fossil fuel people to go to college. Okay, do they want to go to college, and do they want to do the job? That's the question. Because the answer may be a resounding no. You'll find many people are proud of the job they do, and they disagree with you, and they think it's a good thing. So then you enter the authoritarianism of these plans and how it always gets to this point. Because you will have to force these people to do something they don't want to do. You can talk all day and night. The money exists. We can pay for it. But you're also talking about a transformation of the economy, which at its core is human labor. The biggest cost for almost any business is human labor. So you can go to somebody who works for one of these companies and say, we're taking you out of this petroleum engineering job, and we're going to train you to build solar panels. And they might say, no, I don't want to. I don't like solar. Sorry. So what do you do? What do you do? The assumption is that this money will go into the hands of somebody who is choosing to do a job. But the reality is the economy is very delicate and hard to move. One person can't do it. Maybe with a gun they can. But think about all of the people in all of the industries where you will have to tell people you are now going to do X and here's the money for it. And they might just say no. It's really that simple. I try to keep these segments short, but let me stress. We shouldn't be arresting people over controversial pipelines. We should pass a law and have a conversation. And just because there is a small minority of people claiming they should be arrested doesn't mean it's true. We need to figure these things out, but 10, 20, 100, even 1,000 people can't say one person should be locked up indefinitely. When I'm talking about regular people on the ground, we have to work within a system that guarantees life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This isn't that. What these people in the Green New Deal don't realize is that you might go to someone and say, we're going to give you free college. And they'll say, I want to take interpretive dance. And you'll go, well, actually, we need people to build wind turbines. And they're going to go, no, I want to take interpretive dance. And there you go. There you go. I was talking to someone about UBI and why I mostly disagree with it. And I said, if you could do anything you wanted right now, what would you do? And I was talking to my friend and they'd say, I just skate every day. I'm like, that's awesome. I bet you'd be really good at a certain point, but never as good as the pros. And that would add nothing to society. Therein lies the problem. What would people do if given the choice? They'd say, I'll be an actor, I'll be a musician, I'll be a pro golfer. And it's like, yeah, that's great. I ask people this, how many people do you know who play guitar? And they say, oh, I know a ton. How many of those people who play guitar want to do it professionally and be famous? Like, I shouldn't say famous, but a successful musician. And then they respond with a lot of them, actually. And how many of them are good enough to do it? And they say, almost none. There you go. When you guarantee anybody can just do a job, they will do something we don't need, they're not good at. It's tough. I don't know what the answer is. What I do know is you can't snap your fingers and say the economy will change because you're assuming people will just agree to take the jobs you think they will. They won't. And maybe, here's the other problem. Let's say you go to one of these guys, a petroleum engineer making $150K a year, and they say, we're going to make you do solar panels. And they say, I don't want to do solar panels. I like doing petroleum. Well, you have to. Well, then you better pay me more. We're not going to pay you more. Well, then I'm not going to do it. Either they don't do it, or you pay them more, and that's not going to make sense in the economy. I'm sorry. Because then you've got ridiculously expensive solar, and you can't pay for it. Just claiming it costs something ignores the human issue of whether or not people will choose to do a job. Like, look at all these numbers. This is the last point I'll make. Look at all these numbers. And now tell me you think all of that will translate into people agreeing to do something. It won't. I'll leave it there. A couple more segments coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.